When the left goes all out to smear an event, you know it must be over the target. But what is it they don't want you to know about the Patriot Roundup event this past weekend in Dallas? You'll find out on today's show. Welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, coming live to you back in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you, everyone, for coming to watch me today. I'm not sure if any of you I met in Dallas. I was there this past weekend for the Patriot Roundup. It was an event that was hosted by the Patriot Voice. The event was called For God and Country, and it was an absolutely incredible event. And so today's show, it's not a highly, scripted show. I don't have a lot of news information to go over with you, but I really wanted to capture what my feelings were, what the energy was at the event, and deliver it to you in as raw as a format as I can. I don't want to be thinking too much about it. I want you to feel the heart of what it was like to be there. And so that's what today's show is really going to be focused on. I just got back last night. I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because fundamentally what I can tell you, and I'll be getting into this more, is there's so much hope. And that's what today's show is going to be about. So let me first ask folks, where's everyone coming from? I see we've got My Own Garden from Cleveland, Ohio, fellow Ohioan. Valerie from Michigan. I'm okay with that. I'm not a big anti-Michigan person, though. I was born and raised in Ohio. Lisa C. from Wisconsin, good to see you. JG from Denver, good to see you here as well. Mentors Legacy, hi from Iran. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's amazing. David Blake from Cambridge, UK. Vivi from Denmark. It's always incredible to see the people that are joining from all over the world. And again, Joseph Malone, greetings to see you from Ireland again. I love seeing you here, Joseph. Thank you for joining. Karen, hello from Georgia, y'all. Daryl Devine from Texas. Thomas from South Alabama. Lama, unfortunately, California, California. There's a lot of folks that were at this event that were coming from California. I think there's a strong conservative crowd in California. And maybe California was even red, for all we know, in November. Maybe we'll find out. Cat Hill from Texas, good to see you. So, and one other quick point too, Sandy Brown, good to see you here. Thank you for coming. Sandy, good to see you again. I love to see the regulars that consistently come back. Jerjo from Hungary, thank you. Basil from Saudi Arabia. Incredible. Again, I love seeing the international folks, because the thing is that what do we have in common? Here I am in the middle of America, in the heart of America, Columbus, Ohio. What do I have in common with someone in Saudi Arabia or someone in Switzerland or Iran? What we have in common is that we're human beings seeking freedom. That's what we have in common. We're all together looking and seeking and fighting for freedom. In an age that I never really imagined I'd be living in this type of an era, where we're seeing this much tyranny happening before our eyes. We're seeing the coming together of a global group of people, to put it lightly, that don't want us to have our freedoms. And so what we're all doing is we're all fighting in the ways that we can for this. Thora from Denmark and Iceland, fantastic. Thank you for joining. So just a quick reminder, as I have to remind you almost every show, YouTube does not like me. They like to censor my videos. They like to lie about my view counts. They like to make sure that you don't get the little notifications when my videos go live. So what you can do to help with that is, if you smash that like button, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel. Make sure you have your little bell clicked. And if you really want to figure out or find out when I'm going live, what my shows are, I don't trust YouTube to tell you. I recommend you follow me on Telegram. The link to the Telegram channel is in the description below. And SafeChat. I'm also on SafeChat, which is very secure social media. I'm on there as well. And Those are the two main places I am. Like I said, I'm most active on Telegram, and again, that little reminder there to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel to hopefully get the indication or get the notification from YouTube that the videos are going up. Because as right now, these are the main ways I'm reaching you folks. And also, Spicy Dame, thank you, Rumble. So I am now going live on Rumble. They're working hard on improving their features. I can tell you from the back end of things that they're getting more organized with how the live function works. So if you aren't following me on Rumble, or say you're not using Rumble, or if you don't have an account on Rumble, I highly recommend you set up an account on Rumble. You subscribe to me on there. That link is also in the description below, because to be honest, any day I could disappear from YouTube. It's just how it works. A lot of my friends, a lot of folks I was with out in Dallas, Texas. These are folks that had their channels just deleted overnight. Some of them have huge followings that just got deleted overnight. So I really recommend that you go to Rumble, create an account, follow me over there, just as a backup. Or if you really want to go there to be the primary place you're watching me, that's also good, because I would rather you give them your eyeballs, your business, instead of YouTube, which we've seen the role that these tech companies have played. And they have played an extremely negative role in our society. And the role they're playing at this time in history is something that will never be forgotten. And I hope that they are all brought to justice for just the lies and censorship. And I mean, you even have it with Facebook admitting that they were censoring information about the origin of COVID. And now they've come out and they've said, oh, well, sorry, now there's so much evidence emerging, so much truth emerging. We can no longer maintain our narrative. We can no longer maintain the blatant censorship of this information that humans need to be getting access to. They've got over 2 billion people on their platform, right? Like, I would say that we're approaching crimes against humanity level, penalties and whatever you want to refer to these as. This is some serious stuff that they're doing. These are things that are very, very serious. So back to today's show. I'm not sure if you had seen it. I don't go out and search for what's happening in the mainstream media, but I can tell you that after this event and before this event, mainstream media just attacked this event so much for a million different reasons. There's one word I can't say. It's that word that's the letter of the alphabet, what I searched for there, because that's what they're using. That's what they're using to frame this narrative here, right? So they've got all the news here about that all these conspiracy theorists have come and we've gathered, and that we don't believe the results of November 3rd, and that we want to overthrow things. And Sidney Powell was there, General Flynn was there. So that the media they're just going nuts, slandering this event. And it started well before, well ahead of the event. They already started, and it's just incredible. If you look at the event, let's look at what it is, right? It was hosted by or presented by the Patriot Voice, called For God and Country. Well, I'll tell you what, any event that's based on God and country must be really, really bad. It must be full of really evil people. So I'm glad the mainstream media has done its good job of protecting the citizens from all this really dangerous information, because I'm telling you, anybody that believes in God or country really has no place in society as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, CNN, for your fantastic coverage, and all the other fantastic mainstream media that have covered this event. So if you look at what it is, right, let's look at it's who spoke. But so what it is they say for 3 days you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of your favorite patriots and digital soldiers in both keynote speeches and panel forums. Have the opportunity to meet and interact with the people. And it's really, the whole event was just looking at patriotism and God and country, right? So we had, I'll make myself disappear real quick so you can see. There we go. My button is fixed. So we had General Flynn was there. Attorney Sidney Powell was there. Lynn Wood was going to be there, but he couldn't at the last minute. He had to cancel. This gentleman right here to the right of Lynn Wood is Jason Sullivan. I did a fantastic interview with him. Juanita Broderick, George Papadopoulos. just an incredible amount of people that were there. But what was more important than the people that were there speaking were the patriots that went there. There was, I think, well over 1,000, maybe 1,500 people that were in attendance. And yeah, I see that from the WWG1 WGA, where we go one. I see they're saying it was the most amazing event, honestly, life changing. And yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about today is that the energy there, the hope, the optimism, but I also wanted to share with you what my takeaways were, because I think that there was some important direction that was given to us by folks like General Flynn or Sidney Powell, some of the other speakers. Doug Billings was there from the right side. I did a fantastic interview with him. Wonderful man, a wonderful, wonderful man. And I want to give a shout out to the organizer, John and Amy, his girlfriend Amy, who did an absolute amazing job on the event. And I hope this is just the first of many. And you're right, Cynthia. Yeah, someone from, I think it was from Daily Beast, had snuck in and he got kicked out and booted out. And there's also, I think, Vice Media had snuck in. They got in and they were also recording. They wrote a smear article about it. So they're trying to get in here to expose what's happening. I see WWPP, Worldwide Patriot Power. Thank you for explaining that in your username. Again, I'm going to talk about what the feeling and the energy was like, and also what some of the takeaways were, because I think that for those of us that feel like we're really trying to fight this battle and we're really trying to just help save our country and therefore help to save the world from this global communist group of people that are trying to destroy the world, which sounds a little bit crazy. And a couple of years ago, I would have had a tinfoil hat on, but the reality is that this is what's happening here. And actually, I see Spicy Dame saying, yes, Doug Billings, he's on Rumble. He's fantastic. Actually, General Flynn refers to him as the next Rush Limbaugh. And after meeting him and talking with him, I've watched his shows before. He's the closest person I've found to Rush. He's got a nice, calm voice, great demeanor, very good man, talks about God, not afraid to talk about God. And I would really recommend you look up Doug Billings. So anyway, to the event. So obviously the media is trying to control the narrative of what this is. What is it that they don't want people to know? Well, there's a lot of things, but I think fundamentally what they don't want people to know, especially don't want you to know, is that there's so much hope, right? And that was one of the biggest takeaway. And it wasn't like someone got on stage and they said, "Okay, here's 10 reasons why we should all have hope." The hope to me, the optimism was in the energy, it was in the people. It was the fact that all these people had gathered together. I think for a lot of us, we had been spent the past year and a half, more in isolation, especially isolated from people that share the views that you and I share. I can't, locally, I don't have a whole lot of people that I go and see that I can connect with like this. I feel like that for a lot of us, these connections have come from sitting with each other like this. Me being able to look at you and talk and have these interactions and, hearing your comments and everything, coming in, this is where we've found our community. But what was fantastic though, is that seeing, all these different people in person, and a lot of people I think that, watch the show, they came up and they say, "Oh man, in America, we take a picture with you," which is kind of fun. But the one of the funniest parts about this whole thing was that of all the interactions I had, probably the most common interaction was someone would walk up and they'd say, "You look really familiar. Were you here yesterday? Or were you a speaker?" They'd say, "You look really familiar." And I'd kind of smile a little bit and I'd say, "Actually, I made that video called A Plot to Steal America that President Trump shared like all over the place." They're like, "Oh, that was you. Yeah, that was you." And so that was how it's like, "Oh, yeah, if I follow you, I watch your show," and everything. So anyway, that was fun, but it was just incredible because there's all these people that were there that when you're there, you don't feel like our country is in the state that it is. And I'm not trying to ignore, look, I'm not a hopium dealer. That's not that's not how I am. I'm not saying, trust the plan and it's all going to work out and let's just sit back and enjoy the show and eat the popcorn, right? That's not how I do things, right? Like I try to look at, like, how do I find hope? How do I keep going? And I try to share that with you. And so being there, I mean, it was nice. I was giving so many hugs. There's no masks on. It's Texas. It just felt like, gosh, there's this movement happening, and that's what they don't want you to know, is that the patriots are emerging, especially with now that, I mean, I think it seems like COVID is kind of over. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Dr. Fauci has to say, if he's still even going to be showing up anymore. They seem to really have separated themselves from them. But with this happening, like, the feeling that I had was, it's almost as if after, January 6th last year, and then January 20th, and the events after that, um, I know that for me personally, it was a really difficult time. It felt like our whole movement was collapsing. It felt like that that they were taking over the House, taking over the Senate, taking over the White House. The media were just in onslaught. We had Trump, going on trial, all these things. It was so difficult, on top of the fact that you had um, COVID happening. So this was all, it's crazy to think this was only 6 months ago that this was all happening. And it just felt like everything, all the wind in our sails was just had completely left. But what the biggest thing I left with feeling from this is that it's coming back. It's starting again, right? So where are we at now? Like, where we're at now is we're seeing the narrative is crumbling. Like, we're seeing that Fauci is now being thrown under the bus for what I believe to be crimes against humanity, and what he did and what he perpetuated, and the lockdowns and all the nightmares coming from that. So we've got Fauci being tossed aside. We have these audits happening, which I'm going to talk about more today, with the truth coming out about the audits. We have places like CNN where they're down to 70%. They've lost, I think, 70% of their viewership, right? They're now, like, they're hitting the bottom, right? But you also, on the flip side, you have people like the folks at the Epoch Times, which they're subscribing. I know some of the folks there, still. I was involved with them in the earlier days, and their subscriptions, their audience is going through the roof. It's incredible the amount of people that are turning to the truthful media, right? So this is what's happening. It's almost as if, what I believe was that there's the original plan to have 16 years, have 8 years of Obama, have 8 years of Hillary. And Obama sets everything up for Hillary. Hillary comes in and kind of delivers the finishing blow, right? I won't go into more detail about that, because those are things I get censored for, but that's what I think the original plan was. And if that plan would have been enacted, I think we would be in a very different situation now. But what happened is Trump got in 2016. That was not supposed to happen, right? So this guy, President Trump, Donald Trump, he comes in, he's, some celebrity billionaire comes in, speaks to the people, resonates with the people. And I think that his win in 2016 was far greater than what we saw, right? But he completely threw a wrench in their plan. And so everything that they had planned initially, right? These are plans that go back a long time, right? So everything they had planned for Hillary, what was going to happen under her, all those things got scrapped. They did not plan on Trump getting in. And so even though we only had those 4 years, which I think there's more of those years coming, it wrecked their plan. And so what happened, though, is that their plan got wrecked. And so now they've been scrambling, right? So they've been absolutely scrambling to try to correct everything. But what's happening, though, is in that process, Trump woke up too many people, right? The MAGA movement, I mean, you saw the boat parades, the car parades, the rallies with 50, 60, 100,000 people lining up on the streets. That's what happened. And as much as it seems like they've kind of taken back control, the thing is that they are struggling, and all the things that Trump put into place are now, playing out. The people are waking up. We're realizing it's we, the people. It's we, the people, that are going to take back this country, right? And that was one thing that was there. Uh, General Flynn, at a certain point, he gave a private interview for the media, and I was there, I guess, as media. I had a media pass, which I guess this is the new media. We are the new media, right? Um, and people were asking about the plan, and one thing that he said, "You are the plan. You are the plan." Right? And it really hit me. It's like, wow, that's it. It's the people are the plan. Maybe there is some plan that's still being enacted, right? And if it's a really good plan, I wouldn't know about it. If it's a really good plan, nobody would know about it, right? Because that's what a really good plan would be in a war, is that nobody would know, right? But we are the plan, though, and that's what Trump did. That's what he woke us up, and he made us all step forward and say, "Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to my local school board meeting, right? I'm gonna print out these flyers and share them with people about where the true media are. I'm gonna pull my kid out of school and homeschool my kid. I'm gonna stop paying for these rhino politicians and put my money elsewhere." Right? So this is what's happened, and they're scrambling. So these are things that give me hope, is and wait until Trump starts back up with his rallies. Just wait until that happens. All right. And then wait until Trump comes out with whatever his plan is for the social media. That's going to be incredible. Can you imagine that? What's going to happen when all of a sudden there's a social media platform that's got 100 million, 200 million, 500 million people all joining it, right? Where we can then coordinate and talk to each other. It's like they know they're losing. They are so scared. They are so panicked. And that's the point that I was making earlier with the media coverage of this event. It's like, why are they're just like, they're foaming at the mouth. They're foaming at the mouth to try to cover these things up. And the thing is who they trying to cover it up for? It's you. They don't want you to know about these things. They want all the people that believe in conservative values and believe in tradition and are anti-communist, not let alone pro-Trump, but just the people that want to preserve America, which a lot of the people on the left have these same aspirations. They've been brainwashed. They've been controlled by the mainstream, the Mockingbird media, which is a whole other story to get into. But they don't want people to know the truth. They don't want people to know that these patriots celebrating God and country, got together and talked about how to move forward, how to find inspiration. There was even a church service. They had a 2-hour church service at this event with there's a great sermon delivered. There was singing. I mean, that's what they don't want you to know. They want people to think that it's a bunch of people that are like in some dark room hatching some plan, like, worshiping some alphabet letter. It couldn't be further from the truth. So anyway, that's the first main point, is the hope and the optimism. Now, I wanted to share a few, I guess, more practical points that I took away from the event, and these are things that I took away from, whether it was General Flynn. I had a chance to talk to him personally a few different times, or Sidney Powell, some of the things that she said, or some of the interviews that I did. And I'll tell you actually quickly is that I did a lot of interviews there. I had a great interview, like I said, with Doug Billings. Sat down, had a wonderful interview with George Papadopoulos. He was there, great man. A guy named Jason Sullivan, who they call the Wizard of Twitter. There's a reason why they call him that. Doug Billings, who I've mentioned, yeah, again, fantastic guy. But I'll be publishing those interviews over the course of the next week or two. I have a lot of editing to do to get them ready. The ones that are more, I guess, I'll put the censored versions of his interviews on YouTube, so I don't get kicked off or get penalized. But the full interviews I'll be putting over on Rumble. So even if I'm going to put a full interview on Rumble, I'll still put part of something on YouTube. That way that you can still watch it here, and then it'll also tell you where to go find it if you want to watch the whole thing, which I'm assuming that you would. So just a quick point for you there. But so one of the big points that I took away from this, and this is a more of a serious point. But I think that it's very important for us to all understand. And it wasn't something that was necessarily a theme, but it was something that you saw people talking about. And in a lot of my side conversations, this was it. And the point is that what is the first step to in Alcoholics Anonymous? And I'm going to tie this together. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. It's admitting that you're an alcoholic in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a reason why that's the first step. So, what is our first step? We have to understand that we are at war. And this is, again, it's a more serious topic, but this is something that we have to be really, really sober about, that we are truly at war. And the interview, or sorry, I just read someone's comment. I do publish on Brighteon, by the way. If you can find me on Brighteon, I put these up on Brighteon. Um, so this is the point, though, is that we have to recognize that we're at war. Like, no, we're not sending troops over to, Nazi occupied territories in Europe. We're not, flying troops over to Vietnam. There's no guns. There's no bombs going off. Um, and that's actually the scary part, is that because it's an invisible war, and that's the real issue here, is that there is an invisible war. And the thing is that, look, we've fought communism before, right? And communism, the communists, they made it look like they lost. They withdrew, but that was a tactic, right? Because they've been coming at us for decades, infiltrating and subverting, right? They've been coming at us for, gosh, a very, very, very long time. You could almost say it's centuries that this plan to bring us down has been underway. And so it's just really important, though, because I think that, and this is one of the points that one of the speakers they made, say, look, you might feel like it's great. We're all eating well at a nice hotel. We're not at war, right? But that's the thing, is that we are. And I think that we have to realize that, because if we don't really accept that fact, we're gonna allow ourselves to just relax. I'm not saying don't relax. I mean, especially now that we're seeing some of these restrictions, kind of letting up. I think that, being with your family and spending time with friends and family are really important, because, for one thing, that those things help us keep centered. They help us keep sane. They help us keep grounded. You have to take time for God. Those are really important things, right? But what's exceptionally important is that we just have to be very, very realistic that this is a war. And the enemy, like, they want us dead. They want us, if you look at how people are treated in communist China, if you look at some of the plans, the one depopulation word that floats around, they do not want America to thrive. And they are scared of the American people. They're scared of the American patriots, right? So if we recognize that we're at war, we have to turn that part of our brain on that says, hey, these aren't normal times. Like, we have to be looking at how we can act, right? So first step is know that we're in a war. Second step is know the enemy, right? I think that a lot of us here, we know the enemy. You know the enemy. The enemy is, I would say that, in my opinion, the enemy is a combination of the communists and the globalists working together. Like, to me, that's the enemy. To me, the enemy is not these politicians in DC even. They're like, I don't want to focus on them, right? It's almost like, if you look at the old war strategies, the old war movies. I'm a big fan of a lot of the ancient Chinese stories, and there's a series, or there's one of the greatest stories was the Three Kingdoms. And if you look at the wars happening there, and you had what I believe the greatest military strategist of all time, Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War. What they would always do is they would distract the enemy with the weaker troops. They'd get them busy with fighting head to head with the troops. But then what they would do is they had their cavalry swooping around the back, or they had something else happening from the side. So I think it's really important in looking at who is the enemy in this war. We don't get focused on DC. Like, that's, to me, it's a distraction. It's a charade. What's all the stuff that's happening in DC, and that's one of my complaints too with a lot of the bigger media, even the more conservative media, is that they focus so much on what's happening in DC, right? And to me, that's just us getting busy fighting the little troops down here. Whereas what we have to look at is what are the bigger things that they're doing? How do we expose those bigger things? Like how do we understand what communist China's goals are, right? As I talked about in the video I did called World War III Bioweapon, in 2015, the Chinese, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, published a book, almost 300 pages, a book about how a coronavirus would be the perfect biological weapon to bring down basically the Western society so that China could implement a one world communist government. Okay. Was that, is it a coincidence that book came out and we've had everything happen? I don't know. Watch the show. Let me know what you think. Right. But we can't get distracted with these things down below. We have to understand who the real enemy is and we have to work to expose them. Right. And so it's the globalists. Like if we're looking at what's happening in Arizona, Katie Hobbs. Okay. Where's her funding come from? Right. We got baggy eyed Soros that's funding these things. So again, we have to look at these two things. And that's the thing as well, is that if we're looking at like talking to our friends, talking to our family, I see some of the different, conversations that are happening in the chats about, my family members, et cetera. Yeah, it's difficult because the enemy has gained almost complete control over the media, especially the more mainstream media. Even Fox, unfortunately. We saw what happened November 3rd on Arizona, Fox News, the role that they played in what happened then I will never forget the role that they played. I watched a little bit of what they do, just to see what's happening. Tucker has some good guests occasionally, but to me, that was the nail in the coffin for that media company, in my opinion, on how they handled that. Right. So we have to look at who are the people that are behind these things. And that's the thing, is that if we're talking to our friends and family, right, if I'm trying to talk to a friend of mine that might be, more liberal, I'm not going to talk about Pelosi or talk about Schumer or AOC or these things. To me, it's like that's just all it's all just a charade. To me, it's like, do you understand how communism works? Do you understand the Chinese Communist Party? Right? Like, let's talk about the Chinese Communist Party. Let's talk about what they're doing to their own people. Let's talk about the Uyghurs, the millions of Uyghurs, the forced organ harvesting, the Falun Gong that are having their organs cut out, right? The underground Christians, the fact that if you have a regular Bible, say one of the I guess common versions of the Bible that we're all used to seeing, if you have that in China, you can be arrested for that, right? I don't think I've ever met someone that's, I'd say, on the liberal side of things, that would disagree with me in saying that that's evil, right? If you can't have your regular Bible. A lot of my friends that even voted for Biden are strong, Christians. They've been deluded. So I really, I don't focus on the bread and circuses at this level. I really try to focus on who's the real enemy behind these things. And even look at the UN and some of the UN initiatives they're doing, some of the things that they're doing as it relates to children and pornography, terrible, terrible things. So again, I try to focus on the bigger picture, but I also try to help them understand is that they want to bring us down. And this is the war, right? And this is the point. This is what I really took away from it. And General Flynn talked about it as information warfare. He said really it's two things really. It's lawfare, which is them, using their attorneys. It's like the 100 attorneys that they showed up out in Maricopa to try to stop things. They're trying to use, go at things legally to fight. But it's information warfare. And in an information war, it's all of us. It's you on social media that are fighting that battle. It's you going to your local school board and talking about these things and exposing information about the safety of masks or these things that they put in your arm these days. I can't talk about those much. We're on the forefront of this together. So that was one big point, is really the importance of recognizing that we are at a war, and just helping us to look at this in a way and say, okay, hey, breathe out a little bit. This is the reality, but I'm going to fight, right? I'm going to do what I can to protect my country, for my children, et cetera. And I see that, someone saying that, Julie Lump talking about the Myanmar style coup. And yeah, that's what the media are really latching onto. And I was live for that. And it was not taken, and it was not said in the way that the whole media is framing. It was a very casual comment that was very almost dismissive from him, from Flynn towards it, and the whole audience erupted. But no, he's not calling for that. So anyway, that's a whole other point. And Flynn had talked a lot about it. He's been under so much media attack ever since the Obama days. He's been under attack by the media. But one thing that I wanted to share with you, this is another kind of point of positivity, is, and I'm going to publish this interview and publish this question specifically. I won't be able to publish this one on YouTube, but when I got a chance to ask Flynn a question in the media roundtable, I asked him about Maricopa, and my question was something to the effect of, if the truth comes out with these audits, and if there was what we suspect, what do you think the reaction of the left will be? The reaction of the government, the media, et cetera? How will they react to that? And what will they do? What can we do to counteract it? Because I believe that if that happens, they will not be able to contain that. They will not be able to contain that truth and contain that narrative. And I won't go into his direct answer because I'll show you the actual conversation once I finish editing. But the thing that he said that was so encouraging is he said, "No, no, no. The truth will come out. The truth will come out about these audits." And he was so adamant. And it wasn't just that he was hopeful, adamant. It was almost as if he knew something. He was that certain that the truth will come out with these, and that a lot of things will be changing. So that was encouraging for me. One of the other big topics one of the other really recurring themes, and it's what I talked about earlier, and this is what Flynn had was kind of coined this, was local action equals national impact. And what he was saying is, again, he was saying, look, ignore DC, ignore the politicians in DC. It's just a show, right? We're just wasting our time, looking, okay, what Pelosi do today and what Schumer doing, and dealing with these things. I mean, okay, yes, for some things, it's good to know that, like, say, for instance, their January 6th commission got shot down. That's good to know. But what he was really saying is that focus locally. Figure out who your local your representatives are. Get to know them. If they're no good, expose them. We know all about that. We can use social media to expose people. Do your research, dig, find what's the truth is. One thing is, look at who your local sheriff is, right? So I'm in the process of moving to a different location in Ohio, a little further outside the city, a little more land, which I'm very excited about. But one thing I'm looking at, okay, who is my local sheriff there? And one of the big questions that people were kept talking about and really, kind of hammering in was, is your sheriff a constitutional sheriff? That's the thing. Is a sheriff someone that's going to uphold the Constitution? Because if the federal government starts coming after the Second Amendment, for instance, the thing is that we have to understand, will the sheriff in our area protect our Second Amendment rights? It's a very, very, very important, because there's a lot of sheriffs that have come out and they've said, look, if you start going after that, I'm not going to follow. I will not go in and violate the Constitution and take away the arms of the people that I've been elected to serve, right? So that's a really important thing. And again, Flynn, he kept emphasizing local action, national impact, local action, national impact. So that was a really important thing. And so looking at, I'm going to be looking at in this new location, where the school board is, what different school boards can I be going to and talking to, because these are really important places. Look at your local, community, boards or different things that are managing different things about your city, the, local city councils, looking at who's running our country, because that's how, and that's what he said too. He goes, look, he was kind of saying there is no plan, right? Which, to me makes me think there is a plan. But anyway, he was just saying, look, you're the plan. You are the plan, right? And that's what is like a big, big important point, It's like, yeah, we are the plan, so we have to take that responsibility. Um, so that was an important point the overall conference. So the final point I want to make that I really took away from this conference, which I think is, and I saved it for last because I think it's the most important, is that God wins. And that's the point. Almost, I would say every single person that I met at this conference that I talked to, where the conversation came up, they said, "Oh, we're praying for you, we're praying for our country." They said, "You got to have faith in God." I mean, look, the country was called for, or the conference was for God and country, right? That's the important thing, is that, and this is what I really took away from that. Even you had all these people from all walks of life coming into this conference, but faith was the theme that brought everyone together. Even more, it seemed, than it was Trump or different conservative values. It was the fact that we are fighting we're fighting God's battle, right? This time in history, and this was a very, very common theme, I think, in some of the speeches, but also in the interactions that I had with a lot of people that I spoke with. It's that this is a battle of good and evil, right? That's what's happening right now. This isn't an ordinary time in history, right? It's good and evil. It's angels and demons, and I'm not. I try, when I talk about God, I obviously have my opinions on it, but you might have your own version or understanding of what God is to you, and that's fine, right? What I'm saying most importantly is um, that God, spirituality, faith is so important, and because that's what this battle is. And I think what's also kind of comes into that is really understanding who the enemy is, right? As I talked about earlier, is the enemy the Chinese Communist Party? Is the enemy, Mr. Rockefeller? Is the enemy? Actually, no. At the pinnacle of that, the enemy is Satan, and that's what I believe. I believe that at the pinnacle of what we're fighting against is evil. It's Satan, and so that's an important point, because if you look at it from that perspective, and even if you have friends that say they don't like Trump or so, but they're Christian, or they're very full of faith, helping them show the signs, right? Like, why is it that at the Democratic National Convention they removed God from I think was it not the national anthem? I forget, anyway, but they were removing God from the conference, asked them these questions, because if we recognize that this is really good versus evil, like, to me, that that makes me reflect on that and say, well, gosh, well, how do I fight a battle like that? I mean, like, that's a little bit different. I mean, yes, of course, I'm gonna go out and petition, go out and talk to things, visit local school boards, etc. But if this is a battle of good and evil, how do I strengthen that? How do I strengthen myself in that battle? Um, right? It's, to me, it comes through prayer, um, uh, really, I think, strengthening myself spiritually, um, looking at my own actions. Are there ways that, do I have certain vices that have created weaknesses for me? Like, for me personally, like, I stopped drinking alcohol, gosh, probably 15 years ago. It's just something that I saw was weakening me. I'm not saying that everyone go out and do that, but that's something that was my own decision for me, that I just said, look, this is not helping me. It's not bringing me closer to God. So I'm going to stop that, right? I'm not going to do that anymore. So I think that for all of us, looking at what are these different ways that, um, we can improve ourselves and strengthen ourselves, because the more loopholes that we have, the more ways Satan can get in, and I think can weaken us. So that was, yeah. So that's one point. But I think I've really I've covered the majority of the points I wanted to make. But I just wanted to, since this is a more conversational chat, I don't think I rambled too much, and hopefully, if I did, hopefully it made some sense. But I see a few. I want to see if anybody has any questions that we can talk about. I see that Cynthia is asking here, how do we handle it when people say, just wait until the 2022 elections, things will change then? Um, and how do we handle that? So I would say that, well, for one, is that, well, why wait? Like when anyone tells me just wait for anything, I mean, I'm a pretty impatient person sometimes, but it's like, okay, well, let's hope that the 2022 elections um, go well. But what can I do today to influence those elections, right? And that's why I think even when I see people, they say, Trump 2024, and there's this discussion about whether Trump's going to be running or not. It's like if we don't change something now, if we don't figure out how to take control of what's happening in our country, we're not going to get to 2024. Do you think there's going to be a fair election in 2024 if we can't figure out what's going on right now, right? So I think it's a good point though, and that's the thing is that it depends on who's saying that. It depends on who's telling me wait till 2022. I just say, look, um, that's good. I think that 2022 is important. We can take back more control of Congress, et cetera. But my answer is like, what can we do right now? Right. Because I don't like anything. That's why I don't like a lot of the ideas of like trust the plan, like enjoy the show, sit back, enjoy eat the popcorn, all that. It's like, no, it's like we got to act. Right. It's faith with action. Yeah, exactly. As Karen says, faith without action, God is in control, but it takes more than a prayer. Absolutely. It really does it takes more than prayer. I mean, prayer is good. I think it's really important, but um, it takes action. We really have to be acting. And so something I'm going to do. I moved back to Ohio only about a year and a half ago at the beginning of COVID, and so something I'm working on, which I'll share more details with you, is I want to understand what the political landscape looks like in Ohio, and um, who can we get in office instead of Mike DeWine, who's running his vaccine, lotteries? Embarrassing, to Ohio that he's doing these things. Federalist 2.0, school boards. Yes, school boards are absolutely to start. Um, that's really, really important. Getting into the children, like what they're doing to our children. It's absolutely terrible, and the children they're our future. So if we don't get serious about taking our school boards back, getting rid of the critical race theory, 1619 propaganda they're trying to indoctrinate our children with, and if we have the means to pull our kids out of school and homeschool them, find a good maybe faith based non corrupted curriculum that we can help teach with. Ronnie, I see you talking about Scott Pressler and the work he's doing. Yeah, he's a good example of someone. He's on the ground. He's on the ground with getting out there and doing things. Um, Federalist 2.0, people need to educate the challenge they face with psychological warfare. Federalist 2.0 lays it out. If you guys aren't familiar with Federalist 2.0, if you can drop your website in the chat so that people can see, he's done some fantastic work on pulling together a lot of the documents and guidance on how we can take our country back. And I owe him an email and hopefully a phone call. So, yes, sonic suicide. Yeah, the education system is a captured operation. Absolutely. They've seen that. I mean, it was even, oh, thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate that. Um, uh, even you look, it was Lenin, right? And I'm going to butcher the quote a little bit, but I think that it was something like, give me a child for the first 4 years, and I'll plant a seed that will never be uprooted. And that's the thing is when a young person, why do you think Biden is pushing for earlier education, right? Because they want, as a child is forming their brains, right? Even at 10 years old, they're still forming their worldview. Their brains are still forming. It's almost like you have a motherboard, which is a brain. It's like, do you install Mac OS? Do you install Windows on it, Linux? It's like whatever operating system gets installed, that's what directs how the computer even thinks. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to take these children, they're these blank slates, and put this programming into them that makes them hate their country, makes them disrespect their parents. It makes them pro-abortion, all these things. So the schools are a really important thing. Which if you look at some of my earlier live shows, I interviewed a woman that had started an organization directly going against the critical race theory within the schools. So there's a lot of movement against to kind of go against that. So we have to work towards that. Yes, and also I see someone mentioning Yuri Bezmenov, right? So if you can look at that, if you just go to YouTube and search for Yuri, you see it. It's Mentor's Legacy, but it's Yure. His last name is Bezmenov, Bezmenov. He has a fantastic interview. It's done in the '80s. I believe he was a defector from the KGB that revealed all of their, basically revealed exactly what was happening in America. And so Cynthia, I think the reason for the feminist movement was to get women to work and young children to school at a very early age. Yes, actually, I'm working on a video that's covering this now. That's going to be a little bit later. But yeah, if you look into the roots of feminism, it's communist roots, right? It was one of the major goals was to disrupt the family, to create separation of the family, to convince women they should go work, they should prioritize career over family, and to get it to a place where the children, where their mother was so busy, in working and so career driven that the mother couldn't raise the children, so they'd have to put the children in the childcare at an early age. Right? It was done in a way that, with the look at the inflation and all that's happening, right? So that now, to support a family of two or three children, both mom and dad have to work, right? So then the government comes along and say, hey, wow, look, we offer free daycare, free childcare, right? This is all part of the plan to get the children out of the family, to get the children away from God, to get the children away from their fathers, their mothers, to start to splinter the family so they can start doing exactly what they're doing. But we can absolutely counteract that with what we're doing. So, all right. Well, I think that I'm gonna wrap it up now. I'm almost an hour. I feel like every time I sit down here with you all, I feel like I could just talk for hours, and that maybe some people would stay for the whole thing because I really enjoy being here. I love reading all of your comments, and I really appreciate the time that you set aside to come and watch me. I really appreciate that. It's encouraging. And to those of you that I got a chance to meet out in Dallas, it was such a pleasure. And so that was just a little quick side point, is that the Dallas event was my first time actually, going out and seeing people that might even recognize me, right? So after, the video was shared by Trump and it went out everywhere, in Ohio at the grocery store, no one's going, "Oh, man in America," right? So it not like my head didn't get much bigger out there, but it was just nice though to have someone go, "Oh, wow, I love your show. I watch your show." And it's just so encouraging to me because it's like, wow, thank you. Like, I'm so glad that I can do something that gives you hope and hopefully, teaches you a few things, and you're teaching, me some things. And um yeah, it was really moving. It was very incredible. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kat Wheeler, for the 1776 donation. I I'm very, very appreciative of that. I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep, staying strong. As I mentioned before, I've got a lot of interviews that I'm gonna be processing from this weekend that I'll be putting out there, so you can see the interviews. I did some interviews on some other shows as well. I'll try to find those links for you and share those with you. But yeah, until next time. So Thursday, I will be back on at noon. And I will say too, though, she's not next to me. Today's Kate's birthday, so we're gonna try to do some fun things today because today is Kate's birthday, and she doesn't get enough credit because she does so much behind the scenes. She has even the plot to steal America, the video that Trump shared. She wrote like 95% of that script. She's way smarter than I am, so I feel very blessed to have her in my life. So happy birthday, Kate, if she's watching, which Maybe she's not. She's probably with the baby. So anyway, I'm gonna hop off now. Again, remember to hit the like button, thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. If you don't have a Rumble account, go find me over on Rumble. The link is in the description. Subscribe to me on there. Again, YouTube doesn't like me, so we'll see. Hopefully, I can still stay on here. I've done so well so far. But yeah, uh, check me out on Telegram. It's just t.me/Man in America. You'll find that link in the description below as well. And everyone, just thank you again so much. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so glad to be kind of sharing this journey with you at the most important time, I think, in the history of mankind, what we're experiencing right now. And we're doing it together. We're fighting together. I know that you, in your own way, you're talking to your family, you're posting stuff on social media. Just know that every single thing that we do is affecting things. Every single thing that we do, every person we talk to, every post we share, every meeting we attend, it's all affecting this country. And we're working. And once we save this country, which we will, we look back and our grandchildren, 3 generations from now will be like, yeah, my mom, she was on, or my great, great, great grandma, she was on a thing called Facebook and she shared the truth on Facebook. And that's why we have our freedom today. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week. I'll see you again on Thursday. And until then, stay positive. God bless.